China's leader will meet Russia's President Vladimir Putin in Xi Jinping's first overseas trip since the start of the pandemic. The war in Ukraine will be high on the agenda as global tensions flare over the conflict. East Asia correspondent Bill Birtles joins us now from Taipei. Bill, why are the two leaders meeting at this time and in Uzbekistan?
Well, Kirsten, the first reason they're meeting in Uzbekistan is because a regional summit is being held there, the Shanghai Economic Cooperation Grouping, which takes in a group of Central Asian countries. These days it also includes India and Pakistan, but it very much has been a forum dominated for years by China and Russia. So that's the reason they're going to Uzbekistan for this meeting. Putin and Xi will meet on the sidelines of the summit. But it's a really key timing for both men. For Vladimir Putin, he has been suffering some losses on the battlefield in Ukraine with the withdrawal of Russian troops from some of those key strategic towns. So, of course, he continues to face ongoing sanctions from the West, diplomatic isolation from the West. To have Xi Jinping, the head of the world's second largest economic and military power, standing there next to him offering support, that is hugely important to Vladimir Putin at this time. Now, for Xi Jinping, he hasn't left China for 2.5 years. The reason he has decided to turn up for this summit, and in particular to meet Vladimir Putin, is because President Xi will be affirmed for an unprecedented third term in a month's time in Beijing. And just before that, it appears he's very keen to stamp his legacy on the first decade in power by first going to Kazakhstan to trumpet his Belt and Road infrastructure program, in which Central Asia is very important, and second of all to go to Uzbekistan, not just to once again talk about Belt and Road, but also to meet Vladimir Putin and reinforce that the China-Russia partnership in Xi Jinping's mind is the right direction for Beijing to go in.
Bill, what has China's leadership previously said about Russia's invasion of Ukraine?
China's leadership keeps telling the West that it's neutral on the war in Ukraine. It's opposed to Western support for Ukraine, but claims that it's not supporting Russia. Certainly, there isn't evidence that China is supporting Russia militarily. But if you look at the Chinese state media coverage of this war over the past 7 months, it has had a very strong pro-Russia bias. China is opposed to the Western sanctions on Russia, and China has been increasing its trade with Russia in recent months. And perhaps the most telling show of support came just a few days ago before Xi Jinping's visit. An envoy for Mr. Xi named Li Jianshu spoke to Russian legislators in Moscow, and here's a bit of what he had to say on Ukraine.
On Russia's core interests and major concerns, China always fully understands and supports. Just as the Ukraine situation, the US and NATO forced directly to Russia's doorway, involving Russia's national security and people's lives' security. In such a case, Russia took the action that should be taken. China comprehends it and supports coordinately in different aspects.
How are Western leaders expected to react to this meeting between the leaders of China and Russia?
Well, it's kind of expected, Kirsten, because this growing China-Russia partnership over the past few years has only intensified to the point where just days before Vladimir Putin launched his war on Ukraine, he signed what's called a no-limits partnership with Xi Jinping, linking the two countries closer than ever before. So China and Russia have quite a fraught history during the Cold War. They're neighbours. There is obviously some natural suspicion historically. There isn't much in the way of cultural links really linking the two countries. But it seems for both Mr. Putin and Mr. Xi, it is very convenient for them to link up and show solidarity with each other in their mutual, would you say, animosity, I guess, with the United States and the West. For Russia, that animosity is in the open. For China, the plunge in relations with the United States has happened quite rapidly in recent years, and I think it's clear to everybody that that direction of competition between Beijing and Washington is only going to intensify in the years ahead. So, Kirsten, you can understand if you're Xi Jinping, sure, there's a lot of criticism of what Vladimir Putin is doing in Ukraine, but it is awfully convenient for China to have Russia as a key ally when it faces competition with the West in future.
Just finally, Bill, have Western leaders said anything ahead of this meeting taking place?
Not that I'm aware of, but as I said, the main thing, I suppose, for Xi Jinping doing this with the timing is to emphasise that next month, when there is this major reshuffle, the Congress in China, he's making it pretty clear that after that reshuffle, there is not going to be a change of direction in China's relationship with Russia. And if anything, it depends what he has to say this afternoon with Mr. Putin. We might even see language which further solidifies Chinese support for what Russia is doing in Ukraine. That, of course, would spark a pretty strong Western reaction.
East Asia correspondent Bill Birtles in Taipei.